A school of hungry, frenzied fish lunges into the churning bubbles amidst the stillness of a lake. They thrash violently, tearing into one another just to snatch the tiny pellets of bait dropping from above. The fish will never know that those tempting bubbles are merely an artificial stage, a performance orchestrated by the one holding the fishing rod to lure them into a single, sweeping net. The real estate market out there operates on the exact same script. It is a place where those yearning for a home or harboring dreams of changing their lives are nailed into the role of submissive prey in a chess game where every move has already been prearranged. Behind the constantly dancing price tags and the scorching land fevers, there is no natural law of supply and demand. Instead, there is a massive, sophisticated, and cold-blooded system of psychological manipulation operated by formidable house dealers. The puppet masters never reveal themselves in the light. They hide behind glamorous euphemisms about development potential and once-in-a-thousand-year investment opportunities. By manipulating the most fundamental human weaknesses, greed and fear, they transform inert patches of land into magnets that suck the life force and assets out of the masses. Every fluctuation, every fever, and every shortage is the result of calculations programmed to maximize the interests of those holding the handle. The first step in the art of the trap is the creation of a perfect play called phantom demand. Imagine a land use rights auction or a grand project launch event. The atmosphere is always designed to be breathtakingly tense. Rapid-fire bidding shouts and lightning-fast deposit closings are interspersed with non-stop rounds of celebratory applause. A real customer standing in that crowd will immediately fall into a state of psychological panic. They fear missing the train to a new chapter of their lives. But they do not know that half of the people competing so fiercely are merely shills planted by the house. This is a razor-sharp psychological anchoring tactic. At auctions, these decoys are ready to throw around exorbitant bids, tens of times higher than the actual value of a barren plot of land. They do not bid to buy. They bid to establish a new cognitive baseline for the entire surrounding market. When the auctioneer hammer falls, a phantom milestone is instantly established. The bidder is then willing to forfeit their deposit, viewing it as a minuscule staging cost compared to the gargantuan profits the house reaps from selling nearby plots they had accumulated beforehand. The prey outside looks at those insane winning numbers and convinces themselves that the land they are eyeing next door is still too cheap. By creating a sky-high price anchor, the puppet master successfully bends the public perception of true value. Once the crowd is saturated with psychological blows, the dealer deploys the second lever, artificial scarcity. It is a primal human instinct to crave what cannot be had or what is about to slip away. Seizing upon this fatal flaw, the superiors never reveal all their pieces. A project of thousands of apartments or tens of thousands of plots will be shredded into numerous drip-feed sales phases. In each phase, they release only a handful of units. The sold-out message, broadcast just hours later, is a potent stimulant injected directly into the nervous systems of those who were too slow. The feeling of a missed opportunity turns into resentment and extreme desire. By the next sale, prices are always pushed up a notch, higher than the previous round by a fixed margin. The crowd sees the steadily rising price chart and deduces a false truth: that holding on to the goods longer always leads to profit. They frantically rush to borrow money to buy, regardless of prices inflated to unthinkable levels, simply because they fear that tomorrow there will be no chance to buy at today's price. This scarcity is entirely a carefully choreographed performance. The massive warehouse behind the house remains full, but the valve is only cracked open, drop by drop, to maximize the thirst of those waiting. The one holding the handle leisurely collects the money, while the prey joyfully clutches inflated blocks of concrete, certain they have just scored a great investment. But to maintain this hallucination over a long period, the house needs a constant oxygen pump. That is the power of information manipulation and belief orientation. Using vast resources, they turn trivial rumors into grand master plans. Paper sketches of a mega project, a bridge connecting two shores, or a highway cutting through a poor countryside are pumped up day and night. Muddy fields and desolate hills are suddenly dressed in the glittering robes of diamond locations or golden coordinates. The masses are always captivated by fictional tales of miraculous transformation. They empty their pockets not to buy a piece of land, but to buy a blind faith in a future painted by someone else. Flowery words are used like hypnotic spells, completely paralyzing the prey logic and ability to analyze reality. People no longer care if the land can be farmed or if it can generate cash flow through business. Actual utility value is brushed aside to make room for pure greed. When the wave of rumors peaks and cash pours into the promised land, that is when the shepherds quietly offload their stock, pull in the net, and depart. Left behind is a desolate battlefield, overgrown grass taller than a man-head, and thousands of debtors struggling to pay interest on land that has no capacity to generate any surplus value. If you think the ultimate goal of inflating land prices is just to sell land, then you have underestimated the intellect of the superiors. The real estate market is only one side of the coin. The other side lies in financial reports and the movement of cash on trading floors. This is a much more complex and sophisticated magic trick. For giant organizations, land is not just a commodity, it is a power tool to inflate balance sheets. Behind the prosperous facades of urban areas, the art of turning land into paper and paper into money is the pinnacle of manipulation. When a phantom auction succeeds, or when a neighboring plot is pushed to a new height, the entire land bank held by the house is automatically revalued. Their paper assets skyrocket without creating any productive value for society. Thanks to this asset base, inflated by hot air, their stock prices on the exchange soar brilliantly. The crowd of investors then rushes in to buy shares, creating an endless cycle of capital mobilization. The contagion of greed does not stop at land buyers. It extends its octopus tentacles to stock traders sitting behind computer screens. They are caught in a game of passing a ticking time bomb, unaware that the underlying collateral is merely stakes driven into a wasteland. More terrifyingly, those falsely valued assets are brought to credit institutions to serve as collateral. Using land valued at sky-high prices, the puppet masters extract massive loans in real cash. They use the very money borrowed from the people deposits to continue seizing more land, continue inflating prices, and continue a new, even grander cycle. When banks open their vaults to disperse funds based on those delusional valuation figures, the risk is entirely transferred to society. The final prey of this game is not just the individuals buying homes. The prey is every single person working hard and depositing money into the financial system, the very people who inadvertently provide the ammunition for others to hunt them. The land sits motionless, but a massive flow of money has been siphoned and smoothly shifted from the pockets of the masses into the dealer safe. When the prey begins to tire, their finances exhausted, and they try to find cheaper exits, they hit a cruel, invisible wall. No exit is ever opened. In key areas, the superiors do not eliminate or compete with one another to the death. Instead, they quietly shake hands under the table to create a solid monopoly alliance. An unwritten law is established, dictating a common floor price for all products in the same segment. When every door hangs the same extortionate price tag, true competition vanishes entirely. The ruthlessness of the monopoly alliance does not stop at fixing sky-high floor prices. It also lies in how they strangle all alternative supply. The land funds with the most prime locations and most convenient transportation soon fall into the hands of a small group of superiors. They are in no rush to build. They put up fences, wrap them in corrugated iron, and leave them abandoned to let the weeds grow for years. This delay is a perfect psychological torture tactic for those with a genuine need for housing. The concept of a free market at this point is a mere mirage. Urban expansion pushes laborers further and further from the center. Every morning, the prey must wrestle with hours of exhausting traffic jams, eroding both physical and mental strength. The pressure of life, compounded by the relentless price increases of the market, leaves them in a state of weary depletion. Upon reaching a certain breaking point, the prey endurance snaps. The person needing a sanctuary wanders exhausted from one project to another, hoping to find a place that fits their hard-earned wages. But every handshake, Every quote from agents points to a number that drives them to despair. They decide to close their eyes and take the plunge, signing debt papers at the price the Monopoly Alliance has already set, just to secure a place to rest their head near work. The customer completely loses the right to choose. Their only choice is to pick the least painful way to be exploited. Cornered, they are forced to nod and accept an irrational price, personally signing loan contracts with repayment terms that stretch until the day they close their eyes for good. This Monopoly Alliance is like a giant spider web. The more the prey thrashes to escape, the tighter the invisible silk threads squeeze their necks. The entire real estate ecosystem, under the molding hands of hidden architects, has turned into a perfect life force grinding machine. The puppet master never needs to use force to compel anyone. They use fear, greed, and the illusion of scarcity to make the prey submissively offer up the fruits of a lifetime of labor. The baiting tricks, the hoarding of goods, the pumping of rumors, or the acrobatics with financial figures are merely small gears in a massive machinery of wealth extraction. In this life or death gamble, the disparity in information, power, and resources is horrifying. On one side are brilliant calculating minds, holding the tools of media, the rules of the game, and infinite streams of cash. On the other are solitary, fragile individuals, swept away by herd mentality, yearning for a quick life change, or simply dreaming of a roof to shelter their children from the rain and sun. Any weak resistance is snuffed out by the surging waves created by the house hand. The immediate consequence is proud concrete towers rising from the sweat, tears, and lifelong debt contracts of millions. Meanwhile, the abandoned lands far from the center remain silent under the dew and wind, becoming the graveyard for the cash of countless late-coming dreamers, burying their youth under layers of weeds that will never yield a profit. No fairness is promised in this casino. The one holding the handle always knows exactly when to push the prey to the peak of euphoria and when to pull the rug so they free fall into the abyss of despair. The nakedness of the game lies in the fact that the exploited carry within them a blind pride that they are investing smartly, taking solid steps up the social ladder. They tether themselves to the omnipotent wheel of debt and call it an asset. They cherish the certificate of ownership like a medal of victory, failing to realize it is actually a massive debt notice that robs them of their freedom for decades to come. They trade every good meal, every peaceful sleep, and every precious moment with their families just to pay tribute with their labor to those sitting high above. That cycle repeats from generation to generation, draining the fresh blood of the economy and crushing the simplest dreams. A home, once a sanctuary for humans, has now transformed into a gold-enameled shackle, locking the lives of the prey into an invisible chain they can never unlock themselves. Every rule, every regulation is established not to protect the weak, but to ensure the flow of wealth always heads toward a single navel. When your entire youth and sweat and tears are exchanged for a block of concrete whose value was inflated by hidden puppet masters, are you truly building a home for yourself? Or are you just submissively acting as a plowworm for someone else's chess game?